How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Motherhood is Wild podcast. This is officially the third episode. And if you have been around for the first two episodes, you can see that it's changed up a little bit in here. I turned the camera around. I, on my main channel, just released this video where I worked on all of this back here. Obviously, it's not completely done, but we're getting somewhere, I would say. I was really excited to just get back into this build, and so if you guys want to go check that out, feel free to do so. My main channel is called Leave Her Wild, and I am Jaylina, your host, for those of you who don't know. Today, I actually filmed episode 3 yesterday, and truth be told, I wanted to talk about, I had like this whole other idea in mind, and I wound up kind of backtracking and decided that I was gonna do something a little, fun, I guess, and I was gonna do like the first signs of pregnancy that I experienced, and I did the whole podcast episode. And when I woke up this morning, I was just like, you know what, I feel like that would be a fun episode, but I feel like I'd have a better time discussing that topic with another person. I feel like that would be better. And I kind of wanted to talk about something that I've been really feeling lately that is not something I don't think a lot of people really discuss. I think a lot of times social media portrays pregnancy as something that is, rainbows and butterflies, and it's beautiful, and like we love being pregnant, and it's just this grand old time. And there's nothing wrong with that, because some women do experience pregnancy feeling that way, and more power to them. I wish that that was the experience I was having, but that is far from what I've experienced thus far. If you watched the very first episode, you know that I didn't think that I could have kids. I accepted that I would never become a mom. And when I really wanted it, when I wanted to become pregnant, I never got past the point of actually thinking about what it would be like to be pregnant. To an extent, I definitely think that there were moments where I would think about certain aspects of it. I'm a very emotional person. I'm an emotional being. I've often been told I'm very intense, and I think that scares a lot of, not people more than I would say partners. And so that was always a thought that I had, that I didn't know how emotional I was going to be if I ever became pregnant. And it was always kind of a scary thought for me. And so that was kind of, I feel like, at least right now in the moment that I can think of, that's the only thing that I really thought about as far as like what it was going to be like for me to be pregnant. And so far, for most of this pregnancy, I have not been as emotional as I thought that I would be. But I also don't think that this whole last year, my emotions have not been up and down and kind of like how they normally are. But I feel like it's maybe because I'm just in a much healthier headspace, and I'm with, a great partner. There's no issues or conflicts really between us, and I just feel like I'm not as stressed out, and so maybe that has something to do with it. But I've always been terrified of how emotional I would become, because when you're pregnant, you know, your hormones are all crazy and out of whack. And so I was just trying to prepare myself for that. And that's not something that I've necessarily had an issue with. I do have days where I feel like I'm very emotional, and my emotions are kind of up and down. Like, I have really hard days. But for the most part, it's not emotionally charged as much, I feel like, as it is maybe like mentally charged. I want to talk about today, you know, that not, I guess necessarily not that pregnancy isn't beautiful, but not all parts of the pregnancy are beautiful. And so I kind of want to just share with you my thoughts on that. I cannot say that there has been one day that I've enjoyed being pregnant. Every day brings new challenges, and just I don't even know where to start. I had such a rough first trimester, and then going into the second trimester has been a little wild. There's a lot of different things that I've experienced. In the first trimester, I definitely, you know, I was nauseous constantly, and I never actually got sick, but I just felt like I was going to the entire time. Which, if you've never experienced it, it's hard to like say how bad it feels. And just know that for me, it wasn't great at all. And then I was just extremely exhausted all the time. I'm usually pretty much always doing something. When I first started this build, I was working out for an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. Then I would come home and I would work on this build, and then I would edit a whole video, and then I would post it like the next day. And I did that for a whole month straight. I did that exact routine for an entire month, and it killed me, but I was happy to do it. Like, I wasn't stressing about it. I feel like being pregnant, I'm more stressed about it because it feels, I mean, this YouTube is my full-time job, and well, social media in general. And there were so many months that I just felt so exhausted, and it was like either you work out or you work. There's not enough energy to do both. Some days there wasn't even enough energy to do one or the other. So I definitely was feeling a lot of guilt and stress because I wasn't feeling myself, and that kind of took a toll on my mental health, I feel like. And for a long time, I was in a place in my life where I was in a relationship that I was made to feel extremely guilty if I wasn't doing enough, and I wasn't allowed to take those mental health days that I cherish now. And so being able to take the time off when I felt like I needed to was just such a game changer for me, and it made me be able to take those days off and work a month straight, you know. And for me, if that's what I wanted to do, I could do that. And it was the first time that I felt like I could breathe again, and like I could do the things that I wanted to do, and that I could take care of myself and do the things that I needed. And it was amazing. And so there are definitely things that I'm still working on mentally, as far as like unlearning habits that I learned in past relationships in my new one, because there's a lot that I worked through being single that I didn't realize there's still things that I needed to work through, but you can't work through them until you start dating again. So being in a new relationship, it's kind of hard for me to take those days off just because I resort back to feeling guilty for doing that. And so Isaac never makes me feel that way. It is 100% something that I'm just working through personally. And so being that exhausted all the time was just kind of taking a toll on me. And I hated every moment of it. And so like there were days where I just was so extremely exhausted and drained by not doing anything at all. I just didn't understand. And obviously, like, this is my first pregnancy. So how could I know? How could I know what's normal? You know, and at the time I didn't even know I was pregnant. So I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. I am so tired all the time. Like, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And like, that's how I felt. And it was really not a great experience. So that was just the first trimester. And then I finally, like, going into the second trimester, I finally started to feel more like myself. I was getting my energy back, and I was able to get back into the build. And I definitely, you know, obviously the build has slowed down because I had to, it was in the shop for a while. I had to get it fixed. And then becoming pregnant has also slowed it down because I don't have the energy to do it all the time. And from day one, I wanted this build to be something that I did pretty much completely on my own, just for personal reasons. I wanted to look back and think about this bus and just be proud that I did it on my own, because I know that I'm capable of that, and it feels good to think about. And that may sound crazy to some people, but that's really and truly how I felt. And you know, I'm happier for it. I look at this build and I see all the blood, sweat, and tears that I put into it, and you know, I'm proud. But being pregnant has definitely taken its toll and pushed back on all of that. And so I try to be understanding with myself, for sure. It's not easy, but allowing myself to be gracious and understanding with myself is just something that I've been working on. And so going into my second trimester, I, you know, got a lot of that energy back. But then, you know, your body starts changing. And I am experiencing things that I've obviously never experienced before. During the second trimester, your baby grows the most throughout your whole pregnancy. So I'm currently nearing the end of my second trimester, going into the third. Little Ember's gonna be here in just a few months. It's so wild to think about. Anyways, a little scary, but I'm ready. I'm so ready to not be pregnant anymore. But I am like, you know, I pee a lot in general. Sorry if that's TMI, but you're gonna get some TMI on this podcast. I've always had like the world's smallest bladder, and it's even a joke among my friends and family that I just have to pee all the time. Everything that I drink like goes straight through me, especially when I'm really hydrated. Like I drink it and 10 minutes later I'm peeing it out, or at least making room in there, I suppose. But like, that's something that is even worse now, because, you know, as the baby grows, she sits on your bladder, and so there's times where I will feel like I have to pee because she's kicking my bladder, and I'll go to try and pee, and like barely anything comes out, and I know it's just because she's sitting awkwardly on top of my bladder. And so it's like things like that are extremely uncomfortable. And so it's like there are days when we have to go into town, and I know that I'm not drinking enough water because I don't drink any liquids if I know we're gonna go into town, because I'm just gonna pee. Like we're gonna have to stop for me to go pee a million times, and it's so annoying. And it's like every store we go into, I gotta pee. Every stop we make, I gotta pee, even if I don't drink anything. So think about how bad it is if I do drink 32 ounces of water before we head into town. I'm gonna be going to the bathroom. So that is just like something that I dread going into town for that particular reason. And I always get 64 ounces of water a day at least, at the very, very least. So whenever we get back from town, I chug a whole bunch of water, and then I'm up peeing all night, but at least I'm near a toilet. And so it's kind of crazy. I feel kind of crazy, but it's normal, apparently, to an extent, somewhat, I guess. Anyways, now I've lost track. That's another thing too, is pregnancy brain. I have it bad. I've become more clumsy and forgetful. I drop stuff all the time. It's so weird. I've dropped my phone. I drop my phone multiple times a day. There are times when I'll pick up a drink and it slips out of my hands. I don't understand. And it's just, pregnancy brain, and I forget stuff all the time, and it's so frustrating. Like, I had this whole idea for how I was gonna build my bed in this bus. I had it all planned out in my head. I cannot for the life of me remember how I was going to build it. I guess I should have wrote it down or built it sooner, but now I have to figure it out again, and it's like I definitely have to write it down because I'm going to forget. Anyways, I don't know if those are things that anyone else has had to deal with, but they're definitely not fun for me so far. And then, so, Ember's growing, she's getting bigger, which means my belly's getting bigger, which means my body's going through these changes, and I am finding it harder to do things like put socks on or put shoes on. I don't know if you've ever tried to shave your legs when you're pregnant, but it's not easy. and even my hair, that like the hair on my legs is growing differently. It feels different. Like, it's usually pretty soft, and now I feel like every time I shave, it's like my hair is a little stiffer, so it like rips. And every time I shave my legs, like, it feels terrible. They constantly itch, and no matter how much lotion I put on, it doesn't help. And there's just so many changes going on in your body. It's just like, why does it have to be like this? And like, I noticed too, TMI warning, when I go to the bathroom, like, it's easier for me to pee if I can spread my legs and like kind of let my stomach sit in between my legs, and then I feel like I kind of get more pee out. But if I'm wearing restrictive clothing, like if I'm wearing leggings that aren't super stretchy or jeans or something, I can only open my legs so far, and I feel like that makes my bathroom trips more frequent because I'm so restricted in my movement. And it's like, that's such a weird thing to me, but that's happening. And like, her Ember's movements are getting more predominant. Like, I can feel them changing. It's starting to be more, I want to say rough, but it's not that they're rough, like, you know, but it feels more like elbowing and kicking, and like, obviously she's running out of room in there. So those are just things that, you know, I'm experiencing. And I know that for some people, they love being pregnant, and all their pregnancies are great, or they have one great one and one terrible one. I'm having a terrible one. I just, sometimes, you know, you can't sleep, and these are all fairly normal symptoms, I think. But I'm not enjoying it, and I know that when Ember gets here, I'm definitely going to feel like it was worth it to hold my baby girl and to have her. But that doesn't mean that I have to beat around the bush and that I have to lie to everybody and talk about how much I love being pregnant, because that's unrealistic. I think that gives, you know, a false view of pregnancy, because it is so different for everybody. There are so many women who love it, but I don't ever, and I hear about that, you know. It's rare that I hear about someone saying like, yeah, I hate being pregnant. It sucks. Like, would I do it again? Absolutely not. At least that's what, you know, that's how you feel right now in the moment. I'm giving myself the option to, you know, if I can have more kids, I'm going to keep that option open. I don't think that I do want to have more than one. I think Ember will be just fine on her own, having, especially with this lifestyle, you know. They say your kids need siblings growing up so they're not alone, but the thing is we don't live a normal life. So growing up, I remember being with my siblings a lot because my mom was always at work, and I'm glad that I had siblings growing up, I guess, because of that. But we'll always be with Ember for like most of the time, and if we're not, she'll be with her cousins or, you know, friends. So it's not like she needs that extra company because we're going to be gone at work, you know. So she's always going to have us there with her, and I think that because of that, I feel more comfortable with her being an only child. I know Isaac has expressed that he wants to have a boy, but it's like, what if we have another girl? I'm not gonna be one of those people, no offense if you are or did this, but I'm not gonna keep trying and keep having girls if he wants a boy. One of my brother's girlfriends, she wants a girl and she's had 3 boys, and it's like, if I try again, it's because I'm gonna want 2 kids, not because I want a boy. Just so Ember will have a sibling, if we get there. But I just don't see that now. In all honesty, I don't see my view on pregnancy changing. I don't want to ever do this again. And you may think that sounds a little dramatic, but unless you've been pregnant and unless you've had a bad pregnancy experience, I just don't think that anyone can truly understand. I am not trying to be dramatic. I'm not trying to, you know, sell something that isn't true. Like, this is just how I feel, and I'm so grateful to have had this experience. But it's like, I've experienced being pregnant, and I'm just looking forward to, you know, meeting my daughter, holding her, raising her, building that bond outside of my body, because I don't necessarily feel a bond with her now because I'm pregnant. Some women do. Some women experience, that bond of pregnancy. And I just am miserable all the time. And I feel miserable. And it's just not something that people typically talk about. Like, I'm just being honest. I kind of hate it. And I'm not gonna apologize for feeling that way. I know that that's gonna make some people mad, but it's like, unless you're in my shoes, you cannot possibly understand how I'm feeling, period. And there's so many people that like to tell you how you should do things when you're pregnant, how you should live your life, how you should eat. Like, there's so many people that freak out on the internet at some of the things that I do because I'm pregnant, that like, I've done so much research. My mom has 8 kids. My mom, my sister, and my niece are all nurses. Like, I have a great support system as far as like understanding the things that I need to be doing and the things that I don't need to be doing. And I'll have one person on the internet tell me I should be doing this, and then someone else will be like, no, you should be doing this, and then someone else is like, no, you need to be doing this. You're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. Like, you're never doing anything right. So that's also stressful, but that comes with the territory, and I understand that. But that doesn't make it any less frustrating. So sometimes there's videos I put out where I don't even look at the comments because there's just so many that are stressing me out. And I don't need that in my life at all, especially right now. So there's just a lot of things that come with pregnancy that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And there's things that people say that are just mean and cruel, and it's like, why would you say that? I have an app that I use called Flow, which I use to track all of my womanly stuff, and it tells me about the baby, updates me on how the baby's progressing every single day. And then there's also a section where every now and then they'll tell you, like, during this stage, other mothers or other moms are going through it, this and that. Like, here's some comments that people say. And like, one of the women said that she was a hairdresser, and one of her clients, she was doing her hair, and her client literally said to her, you're not going to be cute pregnant, you're going to be huge. Like, why would you say that to somebody? So I do get comments like that, similar somewhat. Super annoying, but some people are just rude. It is what it is. That's kind of just a part of life, and some people are unhappy in their own lives, so they gotta be mean to other people, and that's their business, not mine. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. But anyways, another new experience that I have been facing lately has been swelling. So I've been kind of trying to research the best that I can about swelling during pregnancy and what I can do to help it or prevent it. And oh my goodness, there are days when my legs swell up. I do definitely think that obviously drinking lots of water and fluids and exercising helps. But there are some days when I feel so swollen. My legs are swollen, and I feel it in my face too sometimes, like even in the way I talk. Or like I could feel it when I talk. And it's just, that's not fun at all. So I try to like elevate my legs when that happens, and there's just only so much you can do, like reduce your salt intake, and I try and do all those things, but you can't necessarily control exactly how your body's going to function every day, unfortunately. So I'm just not having a great time, if you will. There's definitely days that are better than others, but I would say overall, for the most part, I do not, and I have not enjoyed this pregnancy. It's just, that's something that, you know, it's kind of personal to me. Of course, I don't want to be negative. I just want to be realistic. I mean, I want Ember to be able to look back on these videos one day and be like, yeah, you know, maybe this is how my pregnancy is going to be. Because I haven't talked to my mom too much about what her pregnancies were like. We've talked a little bit. So maybe I'll have her on a guest and on an episode here, and that's something we can talk about. But, you know, there are things that are just beyond my control that I don't enjoy, you know. And then there are other things too that I know, you know, like I think one of my biggest fears, and I think one of women in general, are having stretch marks. And you can scroll through Instagram and TikTok and even YouTube, and like you don't ever see moms who have stretch marks. It's like, I don't know, on social media, it's like almost something that is either faked or women just aren't sharing. And I totally understand that. I have stretch marks. They're not wild or anything, but stretch marks are genetic. Of course, you know, you can use lotions and serums and it may help, but if your mom had stretch marks, more than likely you are going to have stretch marks. They are genetic, period. And especially if you are, you know, if you get pregnant and you have a little extra weight on you, you'll probably, you know, have stretch marks even a little more so because of that. And that is just the way our human bodies work. And it is what it is. I've had a couple of stretch marks in the past because of weight gain. I was really depressed and at one point in my life, and I had gained a decent amount of weight, and I wound up, you know, losing it all and working out, and those stretch marks completely went away. They came back when I got pregnant and started, you know, my belly started getting bigger, but I know that with diet and exercise, they're not going to stick around. But it makes your pregnancy even more so a little less enjoyable, because in today's society, it's not acceptable. You know, your body is being ruined because you're pregnant. And there are some women that I follow who challenge that mindset, and I love them and respect them for that. But for the most part, you don't see moms with stretch marks. And the reality is your body's going through so many changes, and these are things that are beyond your control, and you're growing a human inside of you. You are bringing another life into this world. And it's so crazy for me to think that about the fact that there is a little baby in here. The fact that she is so long, like physically she's a big thing inside of my stomach. And it's like, as much as I can feel her moving around, I know that these next couple of months are going to be pretty crazy. I feel like my body's going to change drastically. it's slowly been changing, but I don't feel like I'm nearly as big as some women are at this stage in the pregnancy. And then there are women who aren't even as big as me during this stage of the pregnancy. But I know, like, when you're 8 months, like, it's very noticeable. And I feel like I'm finally starting to look like I'm pregnant at this point. And I'm just trying to, again, be kind to myself, be kind to my body, because it's doing something amazing right now that, you know, not a whole lot of, well, I mean, obviously there's millions of mothers out there, but there are women out there who don't get to experience carrying a child or childbirth. And as scared as I am to go through childbirth after having such a, well, I'm terrified to go through childbirth because I don't know, I know it's gonna hurt. Even just like the Braxton Hicks contractions hurt as bad as they do. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about what the contractions are gonna feel like. And I also read too that it doesn't matter what size your baby is, because when you're dilating, it dilates to accommodate the biggest baby you could have. So it does not matter how big your baby is. Your body's going to become what it needs to become through all the pain to get that baby out. So it doesn't go by like the size of your baby. It goes by the biggest possible outcome. And it's a little terrifying. It's extremely terrifying. I take that back. I'm wildly terrified of childbirth. But at the same time, I'm ready. And if I could go through it now, I would. I'm done being pregnant. I'm over it. I'm ready to meet my daughter, and I will hold this pregnancy over her head for the rest of her life. I'm just kidding. She's gonna hear it. I'm just kidding. I love her already so much, and I know that when I hold her, I know at that point it'll all be worth it. So I just want anyone to know out there that if you're pregnant and you're really going through it and you hate it, you're definitely not alone. That doesn't mean that, you know, we don't appreciate the pregnancy, that I don't appreciate the pregnancy for all that it is and its glory, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean that there's rainbows and butterflies. It just means I'm trying to be realistic here. I'm trying to be honest, and I'm trying to be transparent, and I hope that it does come off that way. And, you know, if you do have a similar experience, or if you are experiencing that as well, like, please don't hesitate to comment down below, and, like, let's get this conversation going. I think it's such a topic that is so talked about as far as pregnancy goes, but like no one talks about not liking it. It's like everyone tries to view pregnancy with rose-colored glasses, and like the thing is it's not pretty all the time. Of course, I have moments where I am trying to embrace it, and you know, I will sit here and I will hold my stomach, and I love it when I feel Ember kick. It's a feeling that I'll never feel again with my daughter anyway. So it's like when she wants to kick and she wants to move, like even if it hurts or she's kicking my bladder, I'm trying to soak in all the movement. I'm trying to, you know, love the experiences that I actually love as a part of the pregnancy. But that doesn't mean that I love all the parts of the pregnancy. Those are probably the most special moments to me that I want to cherish and think about in the future when it's all said and done, is the little moments where I felt her move inside of me. Those are the most precious moments to me. Or like seeing her on the ultrasound or hearing her heartbeat. I love those times. But there are a lot of times, which is most of the time, when I'm not feeling her move, and I'm not seeing, her on an ultrasound. I'm not hearing the sound of her heartbeat. I'm just feeling all the repercussions of being pregnant and how my body's reacting to it. So yeah, I kind of hate being pregnant, and that's the truth. That's the cold, hard truth. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's this amazing experience. It is, to an extent, but there's a lot of things that go on in the pregnancy that I haven't loved, that I would rather have not experienced at all. But I'm grateful for being where I'm at, for sure. But I do kind of hate it. It's a give and take, for sure. So if you guys have any stories you want to share about why you loved your pregnancy or why you hated your pregnancy, or maybe you can kind of relate to some of the things that I've talked about and kind of touch on those subjects, like, please do not hesitate to comment down below. Like, I would love for us all to be able to communicate in the comment section. I think that's a great way for us to kind of express how we're feeling and be open and honest with each other, especially in times where everything is glossed over on the internet. Like, people make it seem like they live these perfect lives, and they have these perfect scenarios and like these perfect pregnancies and these perfect children, and it's like, it's never what it seems. I know that for a fact. For a fact. It is not ever what it seems. And as much as I try and be transparent and open and honest, you guys only see so much of my life and my personality and just who I am as a person online, versus if you actually spent time with me in person and saw some of the things that you don't get to see on YouTube, So it's like, even with me, as much as I could possibly be open and transparent, you still don't know. And so I hope that with this channel and with this podcast, I can kind of give you guys a better glimpse of who I am as a person, but also, I hope that you see that we are similar, or I don't know. I want people to know, I want you to know, you're not alone in this, and my door is always open for communication, and I will always try to be as honest as I can. What else can you do? So I hope that you guys are liking this format, and I'm really excited to have guests on the show. Again, if you guys are interested, if you're a mom and you're interested on being on the podcast, please reach out to me via email at motherhoodiswildpodcast@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. And thank you so much for your patience while I am scheduling and responding. I have my first online guest. So Lauren Gardenbell was my first guest in person, which was really cool. But I think most of my guests are going to be virtual, just because, unless you're here visiting, that's really the only way, or unless I'm visiting you, that's really the only way I'm going to be able to do episodes in person. So my first online guest is actually my best friend, Bridget, who some of you may know. I lived with her for a brief period of time a couple years ago, and she has been one of my best friends since I was 12 years old. And we happened to be pregnant at the same time, 3 weeks apart. So we are going to be I'm going to test out, it's going to be a live chat through StreamYard together. I'm going to test that out. And that might be something that I continue to do with all of my guests, will be live chats on Fridays. And we'll see how it goes. If not, then we'll just do pre-recorded episodes if that's what people prefer. But I'm really excited about that. I hope that you guys are too. And if you're enjoying this series, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you'll be notified when I post a video every Friday and every Sunday. And I just want you all to know that you're not alone, and I appreciate you. And I'm so excited to continue to share my journey into motherhood with you, as well as talk to all you amazing moms out there who, you know, we can learn from each other and hear each other's stories, entertain each other, and just have a good old dango mom good time. As always, thank you so much for just hanging out and listening. And I will see you guys on Friday, probably around noon Pacific Standard Time, if things go the way that I would like them to go. It's not always the case, but we're gonna try our best. It's all we can do. So thank you guys again, and I will see you Friday and Sunday, and then at future Fridays and future Sundays. So make sure you subscribe. I'll see you then.